Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the ALDE Member Forum number 194. Great to see a good turnout tonight. And my name's Shane Young. I'm from the ALDE Executive, filling in for Anthony, who couldn't be here tonight. Before we get underway, just like to go through our Acknowledgement of Country. In the continued spirit of reconciliation, the Association of Land Development Engineers acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend their respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples today. Before I get into it, tonight is the first night that we're recording these sessions, just also to extend it out afterwards to our regional members and so forth that couldn't be here tonight. So technically I think we have it all sorted now, but just bear with us as we work through this. So usual format for tonight, we have three presenters. Three presenters tonight, Ray from Verve, Andrew Gaffney from Australian Gas Infrastructure Group, and Andrew Newen from Taylor's. And then afterwards, we'll have a quick update on all things ALDE, and then a bit more time at the end for a drink and a bit of networking. So first, I'd like to bring up Ray, Managing Director of Verve Properties. Who will present to us on urban greening and the importance of tree protection zones.
Thank you. Thanks.
That was yours, yeah?
Yep. Okay, we're on. Can I move that screen down?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can just see this. Yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, hi everyone. I'm Ray, and I've been asked to do a presentation on the protection of trees on development sites, part of a bigger story of what I call engineering for urban greening. I think as engineers, we've got a really great opportunity to lead the way in improving the amenity of the suburbs that we all creating. So it's a big topic, but it's going to be short and sweet because I got Mark here with the big long cane, and he's promised to whip me out if I go, because I can get a bit excited, right? So just bear with me. So we're gonna go a bit of an introduction of who we are and what we're doing. Called the Green Engineering Challenge. I'll talk about sort of the bigger picture, and then we're just going to dive into the Australian standard, which is specifically around tree protection, and hopefully I'll leave you with some key takeouts. So hopefully you'll find this informative. So intro. Oh, hang on, already gone. Oh, that's up there. Okay. So, yeah, so just so you know, Verve Projects, we've been around since 2001. We've been fortunate enough to work on some of Melbourne's really good master plan communities, and we operate in the civil engineering, project management, bit of development advisory to help our clients, acquire projects, and this other sort of concept, which is urban greening, design and advocacy, which is really, it's been a lot about me, but now it's blending through our organisation. I'm really proud to say that Verve's staff are really connecting with this idea, and we want to integrate it into the way we go about doing things. So this concept of engineering for urban greening. So as I said, urban greening, it's a big and complex topic. I think, as an industry, we've sort of disconnect ourselves a little bit from the ultimate outcome. We're about building, neighbourhoods and communities, and trees are part of the infrastructure, what I think we should be calling the infrastructure mix. And as engineers, we're coordinating a lot of the different, we coordinate all the elements, probably don't do this element as good as we can. And I think that's been my thrust over the last few years. So there is some sophistication to this, but I'm going to leave it at that because it can go on and on. And this is what I said in the introduction. I think the engineering profession has a real big opportunity to be part of the the solution. So if we just all accept that, you know, there's a lot of policy out there that says that we need to be greener, we need to be improving our canopy cover for the benefit of future communities. If you accept that, because then I believe as engineers, we are really good at solving problems. We're really good at creating great environments for people. And that's what we do, right? And I think this is part of it. And I also think one of the missing links is that as engineers, we're really good at solving problems when we're actually told to, like when it's enacted in law, when it's actually codified and it's very clear that we have to achieve a certain outcome. I think the problem with urban greening, we've got all this policy, but we don't have it actually codified to an extent that we can actually follow something consistently and deliver for our clients. So there's a lot of good ideas, but those ideas that can't materialise until it's actually codified. So this is a bit of the segue here that this particular standard, as it relates to tree protection, is, I think, the first steps of properly codifying urban greening in a property development context. Now, the code's been around for a long time, and I'll explain a few things as we get into the preso. So this is just again providing the bigger picture here. You know, the green engineering challenge. You know, there's many disciplines and processes that deliver success. I've been around for a long time, so I've actually had a bit of longitudinal study of projects that have done really, really well. And then I've also reflected on projects that have done really, really poorly. And I think there's all these elements that make up good projects. And I've got in that top corner there, you know, engineering design, which relates to predominantly space for particularly street trees to work. And then if you sort of break that down in that one box about engineering, I think there's all these things that make up, you know, things that that we can influence. So, you know, pavement details, hydrology, ground conditions, services infrastructure, and asset protection. And, you know, what I'm about to talk to you about with the standard sort of sits in that little box to the right, which is existing trees under 4978. But you can see all this stuff. They're all intertwined. They're all relating to each other. They're all competing. But I think until we have a framework that compels us as engineers to solve it, we're always going to be behind the 8 ball. That's my own opinion. So a couple of key considerations. I broke this into 3A and 3B. I can't remember. I was quickly putting this together. Anyway, 3A. Key considerations. So why even bother? So this is English Street in Donnybrook, and this is looking south, and you can see Connector Road, finished median, trees planted on the left, centre, and the right. Now, even if you're not a believer, even if you think, you know, yeah, whatever, greening, Ray, God, snooze, you know, whatever, rah, rah. I think we have a fundamental obligation just to do things well. Let's not do things crap. Why waste time and money? And this is one example of it where developers delivered this, somebody's grown stock, planted it, looks good, April 2021, and then 18 months later, on the left-hand side, a distribution water main's been built, and they've just wiped out the left-hand side. And then the irony with this too, if you can just sort of make out these trees on the right here, right, they've actually kicked on. Like in 18 months, you can see there that, you know, they're actually working well, and down, bang. I don't know if I've implicated anyone in this, by the way, but anyway. Just, you know, be honest, put your hands up, whatever. Yeah, I know. But trust me, I'm all about controversy. I think the point here, this is an example where I haven't studied it in detail, all right? So I'm not going to cast judgments completely. I'm just taking it on face value. But something tells me there was a way to build that water main without pulling trees out. Just something tells me, and I don't know, they'll probably $1,000 each, I don't know, 20 trees. It's just a waste. So the standard, which I'll show in a minute, could have been applied here, and we could have actually, you know, left the community in a better state. I believe the trees have been replanted, by the way. Come back and replanted them again. Okay, it'll eventually get good, but why do it in the first place? So this is really, really brief. The standard is actually not that complicated, but I just wanted to run through some really simple things because there's some key takeouts. You know, we all, it's sort of these broad concepts: tree protection plan, tree protection zone, a notional root zone, and this is where we talk about encroachments. So, you know, we have a minor encroachment of 10% of the root zone, moderate up to 15, major above 20, and depending on the circumstances, you can encroach more into the NRZ. I think there's a misconception that we thought, oh, 10%, that's it, we can't do more. So this thing, and I think planners, town planners have this, and you know, probably people that aren't experienced have adopted this idea that 10%, oh no, you can't do more than 10%. You can do heaps, but you have to do the work. So these are just diagrams showing, you know, ideas of up to 20%. But I really wanted to explain to you guys that in not all circumstances, but in some circumstances, if you've got the right advice and you've done the right research and you've done the planning, you can encroach more. And the standard allows that, right? The standard allows that. So, you know, when you see elm, like I was fortunate enough to work on CityLink back in the 90s. And when they did the Yarra crossing, there was all the elm trees on the Yarra bank. And those elm trees there was about 50 of them that they actually dug, like 100-year-old elms, they dug them out of the ground, put them in a yard, and then replanted them. And these are like I don't know, they would have been 100, no, maybe not 100 ton, but you know, 50-ton trees. Like you can do it. So if somebody says, oh, you can't do more than 10%, no, you can do more than 10%. You just got to do the work, and the standard sort of steps you through that, right? As engineers, you know, I encourage people to understand and look at that, but you'll need the advice of an expert arborist as well. And the next main issue is the structural root zone. That's the other concept, that even though you can come in, there is an element that actually creates stability of the tree. And we've seen some cases where, you know, these, structural root zones being affected and trees toppling over. So this is just the basic graph that talks about, you know, the notional area, but again, an arborist can define that better and specifically for the job. I was coming here tonight and I drove down the end of my street, and a guy's doing a landscape job in his front yard. He's got this probably I don't know, 60-year-old liquid amber, huge meter trunk, and the contractor's like literally dug out. I don't know what they're doing, but they dug out this whole tree, and I'm like, okay, so if this thing falls over, I think I'll know why. Not being critical, because I don't think a lot of the industry actually even understand these concepts. He's just probably doing his job, right? But it's just an example of, you know, this stuff's important. So some of the key takeouts is, and this, the first point is really important, you know, the standard for protection of trees on development sites provides a framework for managing existing trees. It's not anti-development. I think there's a sort of, you know, tree, oh my God, you know, this is going to cause grief. Yeah, sometimes they do, right? And there's ways around that. But generally, you know, if you take a non-judgmental approach and just think this standard is actually here to help you work around a constraint, right? So it's not anti-development, it's actually pro-development. And if you have the right team in place, you can actually deliver and maintain, you know, the natural environment. I also think it's you know, the standard is a start of a, you know, what I'll call the codification of urban greening, and relies on disciplined application by industry practitioners that can comply. I think we will see more of this codification starting to come. You know, a lot of cities around the world, and even jurisdictions, some jurisdictions around Australia are now starting to really force the issue on this. I mean, in Melbourne, we're starting to see councils putting the you know, the 30% canopy cover requirement into planning permits. I think that'll gather steam over time. And I think, as I said, I think as engineers, we've got an opportunity to influence and be part of that codification. And I just reckon we're really good at applying principles when we're told to. So when we're told to do something, we're really good at it. But when we're not told to do, we don't worry about it. And that's fair enough, because we've got pressures from our clients to deliver, you know, product quickly and efficiently and cost effectively. And there's always a perception of, why should I do it if next door ain't doing it? Until you standardise that, I think we're always going to be just talking about this stuff and not actually really doing. How am I going, Mark? All right. Yeah. give me. All right. Last slide. I've been doing a lot of these presentations, like, you know, and I've been on the merry-go-round, you know, with state government and some local governments. Some local governments are really good. Some, you know, yeah, great, thanks, but yeah, see you later. But I always finish with this slide, and this is in my neighbourhood in East Melbourne, and the left-hand side is what I think is when the subdivision there was, you know, originally done back in the 1920s. You know, you got the bloke with the bowler hat and the fob watch, and it looks like they've planted their tree stock in there in a street that is unsealed with a brick swale drain and a gravel path, and, you know, probably an outhouse out the back and a water tank. There's no infrastructure. And then I think this is around the same spot that photo is, I think. And this is the street now, oak lined. It's a 15.2 metre wide street. It's a 60 footer, approximates our 16 metre, you know, standard street. And it's a magnificent suburb. And I draw inspiration from that. I go, if that's what this old bloke here did with a bowler hat and a, you know, fob watch, and they just did Victorian architecture and planted these trees in the ground, I think to myself, why can't we just replicate that? And there's a story about these photos that, you know, the infrastructure, the urbanisation of these streets occurred probably interwar between the First World War and the Second World War, so 1920s, 1930s. By that stage, these trees were probably reaching maturity. So what did the engineers do back then? They put the infrastructure in the streets. So around my neighbourhood, we've got water mains and sewers actually down the roads. My neighbourhood sort of works. So I sort of think, how does that apply to what we're doing now? And there's a whole nother, you know, presentation on that matter. But I just wanted to show this, because it just shows that we have an obligation of leaving legacy, and we can't just leave it to those bloody landscape architects, because a lot of them are useless. Is any in here? No. Oh no, it's recorded now. I'm on the record. Hey. Oh, good. Oh, gee. Can we delete that? No. So yeah, so I always like to finish on that slide for that reason, because I think that sort of it helps me understand what I do every day. So it's part of the mix. So yeah, that's it. What do I do? 16 minutes. All right. Yes, John.
Got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic photo. Looking at, I'm guessing the nature strip, the green bit, it's about a metre wide.
Yeah, probably.
So
yeah.
The trees are way too close to the field.
Yep.
Council,
Yep. Yep.
All the new developments we're doing, 150 to 200 square metres. There's not enough room on the block to put a decent sized house. They expect us to build in the street, but we can't.
Yep.
So I know that's not what your presentation is. It's about,
yep.
About the code, and I have to say, I'm quite excited about reading the code, because it's got lots of things that can help us.
Yep.
But how do we get around the bigger picture, tiny lots,
yep.
tight streetscapes? Because that's where the trees are going to be, but we just can't make it. Most councils have 16 metre street.
Right.
And most councils now in a 16 metre street will only let you grow a medium-sized tree.
Yeah.
In your slide,
yep.
they're massive trees. And
yep.
That's what we need in the street.
100%. And I think, you know, history shows that it can be done. So, you know,
History shows that it's been done.
yes,
All these rules and regulations there.
correct. And that's where I think I personally, there needs to be a big reform on all of that. Absolutely. Like simple things. I think I've pulled this slide back up again because urban design is part of this whole idea, right? If you want to achieve these outcomes, it's not just one thing. There's all these things that make this up, and urban design's a really big part of it. Lot mix, lot typology, access, etc. But then, you know, in this one where I think I've got like service infrastructure, right? So, you know, I think we have. In fact, Matt Thompson's here who did it for me. Yeah, big call out for Matt Thompson. Yeah, when you were, I think you was an undergrad when you did this for me. You were, yeah. I got Matt to go through all the offsets from all the respective councils, the different offsets to trees. So you got, you know, you got all the different offsets. So in some councils you can't plant a tree 4 meters from a driveway, or, you know, 5 meters from a light bulb, and they're all different. So for me, that needs to be completely reformed, right? And if genuinely you want to improve the urban greening outcome. So I agree, like this is why I say if it's codified that we must achieve, it is a requirement to achieve this, a lot of those standards are going to have to be reviewed, looked at. And of course there's, you know, there's push and pull on all this, but simply I look at, you know, I look at East Melbourne. Yeah, it's half a metre off the back of curb. Drain still works. Still push a pram. Cars don't get a pothole.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what stifled it. So I think and that's why I think as engineers we've got a massive opportunity to reform it. A lot of these standards were done probably in the 60s and 70s when we had, you know, 600-700 square metre blocks, when the you know, frontages were 20 metres wide. And you know, we don't want it too close. And now we're down to here, and that example of offsets doesn't work anymore in our top context. So yeah, that's an example. Good.
Ollie
Oh,
from PGA.
g'day.
How do you go about the competition where your client wants to put a 8.5 metre wide block?
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit, and you just can't fit a tree. And, you know, got the services, sewer connection, gas, water, everything else. That competes. Unless, you know, there's a definitive standard that says this is what you've got to achieve. Our clients. A lot of them. So I'm going to cut and carve.
100%.
As much as I can.
Yeah, but that's my point about codification. Until it's actually mandated as a requirement, there's all the talk, but we're not, you know. But
we as engineers, you know, as an industry, we need to do it, but individually, we can't say to our client, "Oh, sorry, Mr. You know, we think you should put in more trees. How about you just make your lots?" No.
Well, that's why, you know, there's a development advisory component, and a lot of the times we're not asked for our opinions. Here's the blocks, just do them, right? So I know there's a blurred line there, and again, as engineers, we'll deliver on what we're told to do. You know, that's where, you know, the other elements of the industry dictate the outcomes. G'day. Hey, how you going?
I think I've spoken to you about this before, about the types of trees, and that we seem to focus on big, beautiful elms, big canopies, and there's always other options like, you know, maybe natives, bottle brushes, we're more of a sort of a shrub, medium-sized shrub. And I think you sort of explained to me before about the benefits of greening that aren't there with the smaller shrubs, but I think maybe if we can't compromise, that maybe we do have to go down that path, and it's still aesthetically pleasing to the eye that we've got, you know, vegetation, and it's not that tree, but we've got other options.
Yeah, agreed. And again, and it's sort of part of that, you know, this story here where urban design, like, I've sort of started to challenge even the idea of the 16 metre road reserve. You know, I think I did this a while ago, but I reckon it's probably 60 to 65% of the roads that we deliver in the growth areas, somewhere around there. That's that cross section, and it's heavily dictated around parking provisions. Like the PSPs often, provide, different sections or, outdents and all that stuff to try and do what you're talking about, doing more greening at that lower level, but, more smaller and more. But when you into the reality of it, when you start doing all your parking provisions, well, that's why we do our 7.3s gun barrel everywhere, right? So there's this balance. There's this, councils have got to look at parking and not just blanketly put one visitor park per lot. There's some areas that you could reduce that. And if you start reducing that, you could start to do indents and you could start to put other greening elements into the street. Again, we just get told what to do, right? So you get a bit hamstrung, and I think it's up to some of the local governments to start to innovate around that stuff. And there's some that are. Where's Tim? Yeah, he's an innovator. We've done some great stuff at Casey. So yeah. G'day, Rod. How are you?
We've been doing greening streets, and we'll be talking further in relation to EDCM be achieved through that committee and the revisions to the EDCM.
Yep.
Getting back to the core of your discussion about the Australian standard, in my past, I've done a lot of, when I was actually more on the ground, on tours, I did a lot of work with inner urban water mains and sewers through Carlton, Victorian, Brunswick.
Yep.
And we had a lot of success with rarely used boring, a lot of success with saving trees through hand excavation.
Yep.
How does that fit into the Australian standards? I think the planners in general have this idea that if you bore stuff, then there's no issues.
Yeah.
We're paying the same for all of
Yeah.
So I know hand excavation would be much better.
Yeah, and that's where I reckon the standard, I reckon, really helps, because this update, I think it's this update was brought in. I think I should know, shouldn't I? I think it was within the last 12 months. So this was a pretty major revision in the standard, and it really steps out that approach. So it talks about it, tree protection plan and how you can go about the conceptual analysis and picking your methodology. So again, that's a really good point. Boring isn't the panacea. Like, it's just not. There's other ways. And I think the big thing here, it is about having a really good, project arborist that understands those things and you're applying them. And I see that like, an electrical engineer, like we're coordinating all this stuff. We bring in an electrical engineer to design, but we're coordinating and we know enough about electrical coordination to make it work. I see this standard and urban greening generally similar. I think we've got an opportunity to learn enough to incorporate it, but we still need to rely on an expert. And in this case, it's the arborist. And they're a broad church as well. But anyway, that's probably another presentation. All right. Any others? Good. Right on 20. Yeah, thank you. Could I just, in conclusion, could I just unreservedly apologise for my remarks against landscape architects? That was totally not uncalled for. I'm not judgmental. I've got some very good friends that are landscape architects, and I love working with them. And I hope I'm forgiven. So, is it okay? Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Ray. Yeah. Sure. Just next up, the Australian Gas Infrastructure Group will be presenting. Andrew Gaffney could not be here tonight, but Alexey and Damien are here to present.
Good evening, and thanks to ALDE for giving us the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight. My name is Damien Skafte. I'm Business Development Manager for Victoria and New South Wales for Australian Gas Infrastructure Group. I'm responsible for all markets, industrial, commercial and residential, but I think principally tonight we'll be telling you things that affect the residential market in terms of providing you with a Victorian gas and electrification update. And to do that, I've got Alexey Nikitine to my left, who's going to come and prepare the presentation for you. And he's going to provide the update. So Alexey Nikitine.
Thank you, Damien. Alrighty, so I'll skip the little welcome to country as we've already done that one. And I'll do a quick overview of who we are nationally. So we're active in most states and territories besides the ACT and Tasmania. So we've got renewable projects, we've got transmission, distribution, and of course we serve 2.1 million customers throughout these states. A little bit about some of our renewable projects and what we're doing in response to electrification and decarbonization, and some of the industry memberships that we work across in order to achieve providing a net zero molecule and how we deliver on that ambition. So here is a quick overview of gas distribution throughout the state of Victoria. So we run two networks here. One is Australian Gas Networks, the other is Multinet Gas. There's some salient facts about those. And as well as those, there's also AusNet services that we do not represent, I do not represent, but they are out west and many of you have dealt with them for your projects out there. Here's a little bit of a heat map showing you some of our residential, industrial and commercial sites throughout Victoria. So going all the way up to Wodonga and Albury, and going out into Gippsland as well. So we do have a significant blend of all of those customers, and our goal is to serve all of them. So even between the two networks that we operate with our partners at APA, there is a significant blend of industrial and residential customers. Okay, so we've had quite an eventful time over the past few years with natural gas in Victoria. I thought I'd summarize that with a few pieces of legislation. So Victorian Gas Substitution Roadmap, obviously coming in there at the start of 24, has been gazetted. And if you didn't put in your planning permits before then you weren't able to get gas reticulated. So new gas appliance rebates and incentives were also disallowed from the 18th of April. So the Essential Services Commission also updated the gas distribution code and gazetted that on the 1st of Jan 2025, so at the start of this year, that they will apply an upfront cost to all reticulation and to services. So essentially that means that previously we wouldn't have charged for installing a service upfront. It would have been distributed across the tariff over 15 or 20 years. And now that's all upfront, as has been legislated. So we've had 2 regulatory impact statements to consult everyone in industry and beyond on the impacts of these legislative changes. So we've had the minimum energy efficiency standard for rental homes and rooming houses, which was end of last year, there, 30th of October. It's aimed to electrify all rental homes and remove all gas appliances. It ended up landing a fair bit short of that and has, provided significant reductions to that, which is in a lot of ways, with the cost of living crisis and replacing and maintaining gas appliances for rental homes, has been a positive outcome. And we have instituted a priority services program providing some of the most vulnerable people in our network free gas servicing or free gas services, which we're paying through ourselves. So the current regulatory impact statement around building electrification basically means all new residential and commercial buildings are to be electric from the 1st of January 2027. And that has been announced. It has not been gazetted yet. So we are waiting from the government to give us additional details. There is a document out that has provided information around what they believe will be some of the exemptions or some of the different scenarios that they will run with. And we'll go through some of those in this preso. So this is more of a detailed glance around the classes of buildings which are not allowed gas from that date. Basically everything besides a Class 8 factory or industrial building where LPG is permissible, and you've got still the ability to install industrial gas appliances. So including commercial dwellings, which may be a town center in one of your developments, or could be a mixed-use precinct with restaurants or something like that, will not be able to connect to natural gas under what has currently been proposed in the regulatory impact statement. So, to sum up a lot of these changes for land developers, you've got planning permits that have been taken away on the 1st of Jan 24, 1st of Jan 25, upfront connection charges begin. 1st of November 26 is when you would have a recommended submission of building permits. Now that's downstream of the land development community that is affecting your clients and their clients' builders, who, if they want to connect to gas, they will need to have a building permit approved by the 31st of December next year. So we're recommending that they submit all of their building permits prior to the 1st of November 26, as you'll typically find that it takes about a month or 2 months to get approval, which is what the regulatory impact statement has deemed necessary. So from 1st of Jan, the following day, all electric new buildings with the carve out for those building permits, which were previously submitted. And from the 1st of March, gas hot water replacement is disallowed in existing homes. And there are also exemptions around that that are still to be solidified. But if you read the document, and we're happy to share that as a link along with the presentation from the Vic government, it mentions significant electrical upgrades and switchboards. It mentions space constraints with heat pumps in dense urban environments where you don't have the space for a heat pump. So there is some give and take here, but essentially these are a lot of the salient dates. So another concrete question which we've had from the development community is, well, what are these upfront charges and how do we communicate them to our clients? So pretty simple here. Currently, they're at about $840 a lot for reticulation if you were to charge them up front, which we have to a number of developers. And your state example is 60 lots at 840 is about $50,000. So publicly documented schedules of this kind of pricing are pretty limited. I know there's a few of you in this community that have kept your own previous records of what they have been, but under the new regime, all of the previous contributions that we've made to these reticulation costs mean that they're not reflective of the full upfront charge, which this $840 is. So to step it out a further amount, you've got reticulation there, and then the service connections, which includes the meter as well as the T-junction from the street and the service, which is obviously something that developers don't need to pay for. That's the end user paying for it, or the builder, would be another $2,000 per lot. So if you wanted to fully connect, those 60 lots, that's at $170,000 in total. Okay, so just a quick summary on our view of where consultants have responsibilities here, or what you can do in order to help smooth this transition. Engage early with relevant gas distributor to confirm network availability, because you may need to have a step out over the next couple of years, and that may not be viable under this regime in Victoria. Develop accurate load estimations and submit design drawings for approval, so that we can get your gas plans to you back as soon as possible and meet whatever deadlines and trenching deadlines you might have with water mains. Coordinate reticulation design with our other utilities and align subdivision layout. Ensure compliance with authority criteria and standards, pretty BAU. Advise clients that you're still able to connect to reticulation till the end of 2028 if there are active building permits. So that's probably something that's going to cause a bit more confusion as time goes on, as that's buried in the documentation that the VicGov has provided, and they haven't finished ratifying that. And building permits can be provisioned with gas if they're approved before the 31st of December, where that's currently where the advice sits, and could change before things get gazetted. Alrighty, so that's about 12 minutes of our time. Thank you very much for listening to us. Are there any questions regarding any of this? Yes.
Hi, Alexey. Again, with public. Years ago, about green hydrogen.
Yep.
And it annoyed me that the state government decided that it shouldn't really expand the gas network anymore. So it was only going to be 4 or 5 years, and we'd have green hydrogen, so there'd be a gap in the network. Is green hydrogen ever going to happen or not?
Yes.
Sorry, it is going to happen. Why are you allowing the state government to stop you delivering gas lines for the next 4 or 5 years to Parliament? Because it's just going to leave a gap and cut their energy supply back to the rather than Geotech. This makes no sense. And I can't understand why you guys are in arms and challenging all the way through.
Well, we are engaging with government through our corporate affairs, and we are providing feedback to them. And we're finding that the consultations that we have with government are the most productive way forward. But at the end of the day, government wields power, which is representative from how they're elected. And if they choose to gazette things in Victoria, then we abide by the gas distribution code, as is our mandate. So we do have renewable projects that are active right now. So in Tonsley Park in Adelaide, we're blending by volume 10% green hydrogen through electrolysis. We've had another network in Gladstone up in Queensland, which we have turned on just at the start of this year. And there are biomethane projects and other decarbonized molecule projects which are getting off the ground in Murray Valley and in Wagga Wagga. I had a few slides around that, but that would have taken us significantly beyond time. So I can share that for everyone that's interested, and you can see exactly what kind of progress we're making, and also quite significant progress that other people in the ecosystem, other businesses are making. So you're quite right. This will have a significant energy impact for Victoria, and we're here to help everyone navigate that the best way possible.
And it's not legislated yet. We're still sort of waiting for the government to make a final decision. But the government did step back from what they were planning to do for the existing market. So we've got 1.4 million customers in Victoria. And the plan was to not allow any gas appliances that were end of life to be replaced with gas. It had to be electric. Now they've stepped back from that, and the only thing that you can't replace now is your hot water service. Now there's some conditions around that. If it's too expensive or prohibitive, they'll still allow you to do it. If there's space restrictions, they'll still allow you to do it. So imagine there's going to be a lot of exemptions going on. So it's almost like the existing market's protected now, but they were going to clean that right out. So, you know, we'd be hoping that with this next regulatory impact statement that's been announced and hasn't been legislated yet, that we do get some provision for a step back. We don't know where that'll lead us yet. We've got to be positive about this, but the step back on the existing market was essentially about a lot of feedback. A lot of papers were submitted. We garnered a lot of support from customers and organisations, business, to speak to the problem of doing that. You know, you're cleaning up a whole existing market. You've got suppliers. You've got a lot of business attached to that. If we'd gone ahead in the manner that they'd planned, heaven forbid where we would have ended up. So, and I think the government could see that.
Any other questions? Anybody else want the mic? Oh, there's a person over there.
Thanks, Alexey. The typo with that last was, is there a typo associated with that? Make a decision, and then what to see the impacts on the development industry thereafter with the potential breaking down of gas distribution in the networks?
Yep. So our expectation is that the RIS will be finalised and gazetted over the next 12 to 15 months. So up to and until that deadline. So previously with other RISs, we've tried to get concrete deadlines from the government around their implementation, only to have news gazetted towards the end of December. So that's a likely time to hear an update from government, as they like to release. And beyond that, it's really at their purview and discretion. So in terms of further impact on the development community, we are continuing to consult and represent concerns around additional infrastructure expenditure on the other side of the energy equation that is going to be necessitated by the removal of gas. That we've had a lot of people in this community mention that there's going to be significant increase in electrical infrastructure cost. So we ask that if you wish to contribute your voice to this discussion and smooth out the transition of some of your existing estates, then reach out to us. And we are collating and feeding a lot of that information to Spring Street to enable carve-outs and exemptions on some of these, helping you run your projects smoother and avoiding having to redesign things when that might not be convenient for you or your client.
We think that in the country, regional areas particularly, electrical infrastructure is very lean, And, you know, there'll be some developers that can't electrify, yet they were planning to provide gas to their estates. So there will be some quite significant impacts in the regions. And I think the government relies on regional votes to a large extent. There was a government once that didn't look at the regions and got wiped out overnight, and that was the Kennett government. They didn't give enough attention to the region. So let's just see how it all plays out, because politics will have something to do with the outcome, I think, to some extent.
Definitely. One question here.
I'm just on the whole discussion on government. If the government was to change, this would potentially all change as well and be reversed, or is it likelihood of that?
To comment on the likelihood of a change in government is a precarious thing to do in a recording. However, I'll point out public statements by the opposition leader 2 or 3 days into his tenure as leader of the Liberal Party that he would repeal these were he to come into government. So that's something that he came out publicly along with some forestry comments 2 or 3 days into the job. But on change in government, I refer to others for insurrection. There's another question here.
So if I picked up correctly, you were saying that any building permits issued after end of 6 are gas?
Any building permits approved after end of 26. So we're hoping to discuss on that delineation between issued and approved with Spring Street, as you'll have builders being beholden onto the approvals. And if approvals don't make it, then they'll need to have a significant discussion around their plans and potentially redesign that whole home.
In reality, that means that lighting gas into a stage. Anytime after about the end of this year, we're waiting our time. By the time we've got a 9 months civil construction program, a couple of months for a building permit.
Depend on the size of your development. It'll have to be a fairly small
development. Magnitude stuff.
Yeah.
And paying our developers, clients paying for gas reticulation much after the end of this year is potentially paying money into that sentence that they're going to be connected.
Yeah, and every developer is going to be in a different situation, and it's really up to the developer to make that decision. And it's the best advice. It's the best advice that you can give to your developer clients. It's most important. We're still signing up contracts to deliver reticulated gas in the last week. So for those developers, it made sense. But we aren't, I must say, we're not actually offering contracts for multi-stages. We're tending to go out just for 1 or 2 stages or 3 stages. I think the most was about 5 stages. We did one last week that was 5 stages that developer is going to close his work out by the end of 2026. So for that developer, it's fine. But the regions tend to develop much slower. So yes, it's going to be different for all the developers, and they'll have to weigh up their own risk profile. Yeah.
Gas is his competitive advantage, so
Yeah.
he would want more gas. But I can see him also going to 60,000 for a reticulate gas. So they're going to be connected.
Yeah, I mean, the longer the development receives gas, I guess the lower electrification costs there might be for the remainder of the development. So there'll be a lot of nuances and things for developers to consider. But you guys are in the business of providing excellent advice to developers. I've worked with you guys for the last 30 odd years, and I think developers would be lost without you guys. And as the advice that you give, that's most important. And we can help you with that. We can support you in any argument you want to put to your developer. We don't try to hide anything. We're very transparent. In fact, in our most recent contracts, we're actually put an extra clause in there, clause 6, to highlight what you're talking about there, and that is consider what you're doing when you sign this contract, because there is an end to the road planned. It's not legislated. And so some developers might decide to take a risk and say, well, it mightn't get legislated, so I'll just sign it off and away I go. The contracts themselves aren't locked in stone. You know, you can provide notice of a period of, I think, about 20 days and you can release yourself from that contract. We can do the same thing. So they're not a locked-in affair. So, yeah.
Yeah, construction, so big sense.
Yeah.
The gas is going halfway through, so.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to consider for some developers. Thanks.
Can you just remind us why government other observation, you guys are really relaxed on government that's basically shutting down your industry. So something else going on. So, but yeah, what are the like gas?
We're like a duck. We look calm on the surface, but the legs are going like mad underneath, right? Sorry. Ray, yeah. Ray, we may look relaxed, but a duck on the surface of the water looks relaxed, but their legs are going like mad. So we're not sitting back and taking a relaxed approach to it, believe you me. We're fighting for Victorians, and we know that, in fact, most Victorians love gas. This is the whole irony.
What's the brand? Is it net zero issue? What's the what methane's done?
Case of idealism at its worst, I think. It's that they can see a way to net zero. It's easy for them to see. Let's just electrify, but it's not that simple. No. And that actually, I feel comfortable in some respects knowing that can't happen. It won't happen. And the amount of electrical infrastructure that needs to be put in the ground, who knows where the price of electricity will end up. And we'll all pay for it. The government won't pay for it. We'll pay for it in our electrical tariffs. So it's who knows. We were criticised for not having a clear pathway to decarbonise. And electrification seems simple, but I think they're starting to see some bumps in the road now. You know, with the snowy hydro problem, there's some real issues around delivering the amount of electrification that's required to provide the renewable outcomes that they're wanting.
And curiously, one of the key inputs into successful, stable electrification, as those of you who are familiar with the NEM and what's happening in different parts of it, when you take down thermal coal out of the energy mix, you end up increasing the amount of gas turbines while you transition to sufficient amount of BESS energy. So if you don't have enough gas because you haven't enabled enough upstream gas, and because you're looking at building LNG terminals to supply one of the most gas-rich areas in the world, that puts you in a precarious position. So how do you get more gas without having to drill for more gas? Take it from a gas market, like developments, like commercial, like cooking, etc. And then you have that gas for gas peaking. So there is a lot of different explanations. There's above the line explanations, there's more detailed analytical explanations. But at the end of the day, our position as AGIG is consumer choice should be paramount. And so if people should make the choice to have gas, they should have that choice. And we'll provide pathways to decarbonization. We'll foster a community as we have in Australia, drawing on international experience to decarbonize the molecule. And you can take a look at Denmark, you can take a look at Germany, where they have significant proportion of their molecule as decarbonized with biomethane and with hydrogen. So that's a wide and varying answer to what seems like a why don't they like you sort of question. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, over there.
Just one last one from that, and it's people. All right. So if I, like you said, you're there for your customers. So if I can't have gas, if I build a house and I can't have gas pipeline, get out of gas cylinder and power my gas stove in the kitchen. Is that stopping any legislation stopping from me having a gas cylinder or like water gas?
LPG isn't currently part of the RIS now. So you are able to install LPG. You're also able to potentially reticulate LPG to understand.
And do in the house. Yeah, because I was speaking to one of your colleagues, in one of the other industry, and I kind of said it's very funny that being a developed world, we're kind of moving away from gas pipelines, and in some third world countries or developing countries, they are moving away from water to gas pipelines. You know, we've been in first world country are going back. It's quite funny where I see and how we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems it's crazy, isn't it? That we hear reports that there's gas bottles stuck in cupboards out in the western suburbs in some of the newer states.
Yes. I have
Electric estates. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It raises other issues around safety and whatnot too. So it's heavier than air. It sits in cupboards, LPG, whereas natural gas is specific gravity of 0.5, so it raises up into the air, so it's a much safer product.
As you know, this is stuff discussed a lot, 3 or 4 years. The issue here isn't whether gas is bad or not. The issue is that it's the whole energy thing and moving to net carbon is a nuanced discussion. It's not just electricity good, gas bad, but that's how the government's presenting it. What can we do as a development industry to help reinforce your argument, your discussions with government, that yes, hydrocarbon gas will be phased out, but if we don't have the infrastructure, there will be no alternative gas in the future.
This is Rod. Sorry, Rod. Can you hear me? Rod, this has been put to them time and time again, and there was a lot of. Can you hear me? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a lot of papers submitted on the RIS, on the current RIS, and a lot of that related to those types of things, Rod. So, but you're welcome to support us in that if you want to send us a submission of some kind. We can represent that through our corporate affairs department. So we have to just keep trying. But I think the government has been told these things time and time again. A lot of this is political, I guess. The government's got their own agenda. So, if we want to start talking logic, we're dealing with politics here, so I think we need to understand that. So, but I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing a story forward and as hard as we can. And we've been doing that through our corporate affairs team. As I said, we look like we might be calm on the surface, but there's a lot. Alexey will support me in that. There's an awful lot of work been going on in having conversations with government. They're happening almost on a daily basis. But certainly, Rod, if you want to submit something to us, we can represent that article to government for you through our corporate affairs team.
Just wanted to make a quick point on some of the irony of this transition in a recent study that was published last year from the RMIT University School of Electrical Engineering, Design and Network Systems. And the crux of it was that they looked at a Western Melbourne development, probably one of you helped design, and they found that the network capacity with penetration of EVs rising from where it was at 10% to 45, 50%, meant that after that 50%, a lot of the electrical capacity of the development was taken up, and further installation would have had to come at the expense of residents. Now, a non-electrified estate, a dual fuel estate, would have had a little bit more capacity and have other options for the homeowners, where maybe you want to participate in a virtual power plant, maybe you want to have a second EV for your partner. Things like that, where gas can take the load off that. Examples like that where you would come across in your day-to-day, where your clients may want to put in a development that is future-proof for all this technology and market it as such, would be good examples for us to feedback, saying that, you know, the future, getting to the future faster would be through a dual fuel solution, to have molecules and electrons both decarbonized, producing the best outcome for our end users. So anything in that mindset would probably help Victorian DECA understand that we're here to enable the transition for everyone.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you. Lastly, we've got the team from Taylor's up. That's well done.
First of all, thanks to ALDE for having us today to share Taylor's experience in our work in innovative housing solutions for developing nations. Just a bit about Taylor's, first of all. We've been in business for over 60 years. You see there in the fields of civil engineering, surveying, master and urban design, development strategy, GIS, amongst a few others there. We have a motto at Taylor's, one team, one Taylor's. We use that a lot. A lot of our presentation today is focused around that with our experience, which we're about to share. So, getting into what we've done, we've got a creating impact through our pro bono work in working with developing nations. So we've got a legacy there of working, well, 15 years history there of pro bono work in the Asia Pacific region in countries of Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Fiji. Look, our purpose is to help home people, and you know, it's probably a lot of you know, the audience here would be very familiar with that, but the work that we're doing for these developing nations, there's a real purpose to it. It's different. It feels like there's a mission, and so you know, the experience that I got from being a part of it, you know, we work for our clients here, but there is a real purpose and a reflection on what we do. The third dot point there, providing opportunities to the people and families to break the poverty cycle, to be self-sufficient, educate, and for them to take the next step. And we'll talk about our experience in Fiji in particular as we work through the presentation. But with that, we're hoping that the people that we help, they're vulnerable families, people that we set them on the right path to be able to be self-reliant. We're going to talk about our design of innovative cyclone-proof dwellings and the community centre in the project that we're focusing on. We've donated survey equipment. A bit of a shout out there to CR Kennedy, who we partnered with, providing the survey equipment. And that's leading into building skills and capacity for the local people. So as part of what we've done there is to train them in surveying. So whilst we're there, so their people can use those skills and amongst other things as well. And with that all, we've immersed our entire Taylor's team in the mission. So it's not just the field party that went overseas to undertake these projects, but we've brought that back. We've been able to integrate the rest of the team in the design, and we've been able to celebrate that along the way. Koropita, that's the project in Fiji. Now Koropita, it was the name Koropita stands for Peter's village, so Koropita, named after the visionary Peter Drysdale. He came up with that to help housing peri-urban squatters and move them into affordable, cyclone-safe, fully serviced houses with legal tenure. So these are the people that would be candidates for Koropita. Basically people with no support structure, no access to medical education, often subject of family violence, and so allowing them to come into the Koropita, the village, that's provides them a safe haven and allowing them to hopefully take the next step. Providing support to advanced families, so we draw on what we would hope that they would experience and get out of through the Koropita, the village. So that's upskilling them, providing education, and income generating projects. So if you have a look at the photos there, sort of the top photos just showing people basically living very basic. You know, often people just living off the land, you know, families of 7+ just crammed into probably 4 by 5 metre houses. And if you look at that bottom photo, that's a cyclone-proof home that we've provided. Still very modest, I must say, you know, compared to what, you know, everyone here would be used to, but that is a cyclone-proof home. It's got all the very basic amenities. And that structure there was actually designed by John Yeldon, who works with us. Unfortunately, he's not here today. And that design or model has actually been adopted by other organisations around the world. Koropita, in terms of talking about the project, we recently went there to focus on their stage 5. It was called K5. The next stage there. Prior to that, we developed or helped develop stages 1 to 4, 386 homes. And so we provided all the designs for them. We don't oversee the construction. It's basically our offering is to do all the surveying, engineering, and land capability assessments, get them through the planning applications. So part of Koropita is basically putting in a business case to get government funding to produce this type of project to help obviously these disadvantaged people. So off we go. This is our journey in Fiji. So our mission in Koropita, Bulla, that's welcome, hello, Fijian. So we arrived in Lautoka, Fiji. We got straight to work. You can see there, that's Paul Forrest. He's the general manager who took over from Peter Drysdale. He's the lead. We connected with Paul here in Melbourne via online to pre-plan our trip, and that's walking into his office and getting a project brief and before we head out to site and just talking about what we intend to do for that week. I should say that it was myself, John Yeldon, and Chris Burrows, who's here. And I should have introduced. Sorry, I've got Raj, our design lead, and Chris, our surveyor, who joined the field party. So here we are. We went out to sites, probably from Paul's office there. And Paul was part of an organisation called the Models Town Charitable Trust, and overseeing the development of this village, Koropita. So we meet here with Ronald. Ronald's, he's describe him as the foreman or the lead out on site in terms of the construction work. Before our last trip, our team were actually trained Ronald in surveying. So he's been able to set out all of the infrastructure works. We provided the design, the files, and he's been able to undertake that. And so we are again to try to keep developing that skill set, and whilst we're there, as well as donating further equipment. So like all good consultants, we obviously do a site walk before we get stuck into anything. This here is, we're back at the yard. So if you look at here, the story behind this, actually, whilst we're heading to the Melbourne airport, we had to drop into Bunnings, and we bought all that material to put together the Permi meter. I'm sure I've got that on. I know Ernie. I saw Ernie earlier, and I know you're probably going to critique the integrity of our setup there, the apparatus. But you know what, it worked a treat. It's sealed okay. So that's us putting all that together in readiness to check the permeability of the soils. That would obviously feed into our engineering design for effluent fields. We get straight to work. What I could describe out there, the very hot conditions, mid 30s most days. Like I said, the spirit of just getting the job done. Whilst we were there, we knew that we were on a mission. That didn't matter. We had some help from the locals. That auger, we bought the auger bit at Bunnings. Ronald and his team put together the rest of it. And we took turns augering down to 1.5 metres and did about 20 plus of them through the whole day. So that took a day, and there was never any complaints. And we knew that the reason why we were there. I must say, I'm not in any of those photos, but I assure you I did some work for sure. Just another photo of us filling in the permeameters and just making sure that they're sealing. That's a diagram of what it should do, just to check the permeability of the soils and the best locations of where we would locate the effluent fields in our design. I'll hand over to Chris here, who will talk about the survey side of it as well.
Thank you. So while we're over there, we captured a few different things, and we tried to bring a bit of technology over there. So one of the piece of equipment we uses was a UAV or a drone. So we flew that over the site. Not just our area of development, but also the previous stages that have already been built, and produced what we call a reality capture model. So it's basically just a 3D model of the entire site that we can supply that as a web viewer, and then that we can send that across to anyone, and they can view the site in 3D and have an ability to assess the conditions. Assess the developments without being there in person necessarily. On the right, that's Andrew with a 360 camera. So he walked much of the development, taking regular photos to capture, equivalent to a Google Street View, so that we can cycle through the images anywhere on the development and get an up-to-date image of the conditions out there. I must say that it certainly brought a lot of attention from the locals with all this technology, the kids running over and never seeing anything like this before. Probably the main part of the survey was to capture the feature and level survey of this K5 area that was in for the engineering design development. But more than just capturing and surveying the site was passing on this knowledge of survey to the locals. Andrew mentioned before that Ronald had some previous training from us going back a few years, but we were donating this new piece of equipment which you needed to provide more training on, because it was definitely an upgrade in technology from what they did have, that's for sure. And then also passing on the experience and survey to one of the other team members, Alapate, as Ronald has kind of stepped away a little bit more from the survey side of things and more into the foreman position. So we're passing on that knowledge to the next person in line. So that was the survey that we, the instrument there that was donated by C.R. Kennedy kindly, and a few other little bits and pieces that we donated along to assist them in their future works. So the idea of the training was to pass on the knowledge so that they can be setting out when it gets to a construction phase of this development, and then they can take that forward without the need of us coming in. Now, I don't think this video works, but I'll just give it a go. Yeah. This is just a bit of a fly through of our reality model, but I'll skip over that.
Thanks, Chris. As part of part of the trip as well, it wasn't all that in Koropita. John Yeldon and myself, we had already pre-planned some, I guess, some networking to meet various government organisations in Suva. So we left Chris in the 35-degree heat, and John and I jumped on a plane. It wasn't all dinner and drinks. It was trying to align ourselves with government agencies. We actually first trip we went to the University of the South Pacific. That's where we actually dropped off our soil samples for testing, and in their geotech lab there. So, and we actually had a chat with them about our, I guess, alignment with the universities here in Australia. That was a conversation. We had a meeting at the Royal Commission. I forget what that was actually called, but we met with the councils, environmental departments. So there was a number of meetings there, and those connections remain with us today. We've been able to even just bid on a few projects, and we made it clear that we're not going to be providing full services over there, but potentially if we could do peer reviews or assist in any way, that we could have a look at a few things. Before I'll pass on to Raj, but probably to summarise the actual time in Fiji, that might have ended there. So that was the field. So we were able to grab all the data capture. It was important. Chris mentioned that important that we use multiple technologies. We only had one chance to actually survey the site. If we ever needed to review it again, we've got the full 360 perspective of the entire site for our design engineers to have a look at. But that's not where it ended, because we brought our team back in Melbourne. So we went back to Melbourne, and we've got all the information, and we keep going. And Raj will present on the engineering side.
Good evening, everyone. I'll get started on the civil infrastructure design. So as you're all aware, it's never easy designing civil engineering infrastructure, but in this case, probably a bit more, doing it remotely and also in an area that's very different to Victoria. it represented its own unique number of challenges, which I'll go through. Firstly, they don't really use drainage pipes because of the costs over there, so predominantly preferred channels. So this is an example of one that was done before. We basically had to put channels in. This is, I guess, due to a number of reasons. Firstly, the cost of pipes, but then also larger rainfall, significantly more than what you'd experience here in Victoria. So that was a very different challenge for us to what we normally do in Victoria, which expanded our knowledge in that area. The other thing there was they didn't have any reticulated sewer, so it wasn't as simply as just running some pipes into an existing sewer line. We had to design a septic system along with sand filters and a effluent field. This is due to the fact that the permeability of the soil over there was very low. It was actually quite sodic, and get all this terminology correct, especially with the geotechs in the room. Sodic and dispersive soils over there. It's a bit surprising, wasn't what we were expecting, but that, I guess, gave us a few challenges there. Yeah, which is basically what we spoke about just now, just the complex soil conditions over there that we had to deal with. The other thing that was a challenge was they had about 10 meters of head of water pressure. So it didn't really allow for fire services too well. So we had to put in a tank and a pump system to try and work around that situation, which is not something you normally find in Victoria. Yeah, and that's probably the main challenges, and I guess the professional development for us in the engineering design area. Thanks.
All right, so yeah, thanks, Raj. I guess to round it off, with our experiences, you know, the outcomes for the business and both and professional and even personal across the team. You know, I talked about just immersing our team in that experience, and that experience will provide those opportunities for others in the future to for the next time that there's an opportunity, we'll send us a different team. I had that. I was fortunate enough to join this trip. So we've been able to establish long-lasting relationships across borders. You know, the power of collaboration, sharing information, our knowledge in terms of the technical side. You know, their standards over there versus ours. It was it's something that we were able to do quite well. Part of that experience, we appreciated their culture. You know, the living conditions, how hot it is, and yeah, just basically, you know, even just while we were there undertaking our work, it was it really put everything into perspective. Recognising the importance of safe and reliable water systems. Look, we take that for granted here, but they're not in Koropita. They didn't have that luxury, and you know, part of what we were trying to do was provide that for them. Understanding the lasting impacts of cyclones. So Fiji is obviously a very it's prone to cyclones. Those you know, the images that I showed, I might just scroll to this next screen, which probably shows a capture of the actual buildings, cyclone-proof buildings that that, like I said before, John Yeldon was designed. So the elements of that, it's the timber's local timber, it's lightweight, no need, you know, to bring too much equipment in to put it all together. And they employed local people to actually work on the project, and that was very critical. There's a gap between the two roof lines that allows a breezeway and to flow through the building. But in terms of the amenities, very basic. Obviously, we didn't want to intrude in terms of looking inside there while people were residing, but still very basic. It's open plan, small kitchen, wash basin on the outside. It's yeah, but a lot better than where these people have originated from. Probably John mentioned to me that this building and the community centre that he was a part of in Koropita survived a Category 5 cyclone, so it's proven to stand that. Applying first principles engineering, that's something that we had just had to do. You know, we didn't have the luxury of having Melbourne water catchment plans or other engineers' plans showing, you know, where we needed to connect to, you know, WASA standards or EDCM. We didn't have that, so our team had to go back on first principles and design that way and provide a design that would work and get that through the planning application. Acknowledging the difference in safety standards. Look, we put that in there. Look, you know, the word, when we say acknowledge, we're not accepting their safety standard a lot different to ours, just the way they go about it. And but you know, we can appreciate that. You know, everyone here will put safety first. That's a #1 priority. We don't often see it there, but that's probably an education piece there that will probably happen over time. And lastly, the personal development part, gaining new perspective and appreciation of our own personal way of life. You know, that's we saw it in our work, and you know, just a reflection on the way we live here and how good we have it there. You know, and part of the people in Koropita, and like I said before, the mission is to help the current people, but maybe the next generation be able to take the next step. So people would come through Koropita, be educated, upskill, to allow them at some point to leave Koropita, the village, and be able to live life outside that. And when we talk about just some of the basic stuff, it's just the education part about living next to someone. You know, where those buildings were separated by so many meters, but you know, just teaching that you just can't dump your rubbish on the front lawn. You have to have respect for your neighbours, and that, you know, when I say that, it sounds very basic to us, but that's the level of the education part of what Koropita is. I thought I'll throw this in. This is about the spirit of us and Paul's team over in Fiji. Took this snapshot and a nice background there. You know, we're all part of it, and I'm very proud of what we did there. So that's the end of our presentation. Vinaka, thank you.
What was the authority approval process?
Look, I must say probably better than here. No, to be honest, they are still going through their planning application. So that's our land capability assessment. Our engineering design is currently sitting there. We will wait to hear if there's any amendments needed. But yeah, I'm not sure if they've got the amount of authority, hurdles to get through. Yep. Ready.
I just want to congratulate you on one project. Question around the treatment of wastewater. Did you put in a secondary treatment plant, or how did you go from, you know, obviously the dwelling, where does it go, then get a discharge field? Did you have an old septic type system, or did you have a secondary treatment plant?
Yeah, it was basically similar to what you do in a rural sort of setting. So we've got the septic tanks. They all got collected up into the septic tanks, and this is just black water, not other wastewater. Other wastewater was just discharged because that's what is permitted there. And the black water was treated through a septic tank, and then it went into sand filters, and then the effluent was dispersed through trenches in the soil. So that's where the trenches had to be quite large, or the area had to be big because there was low permeability there. We did get these results from the university over there, and there's a bit of conflicting information there, but luckily we did our own assessments to know that it was low permeability. Thanks.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you all. Yeah, apologies. We probably did go a little bit over time there, but some really great, worthwhile presentations. So thanks again to all our presenters tonight. Much appreciated. Yeah, if we can just go. Before you do run off, just run through a couple of quick updates to what ALDE's been doing since the last forum. As always, top of the list, Melbourne Water, and just a bit of update of what we've been doing with them. 3 working groups that have been going through. So working group 1, working on recommendations to the UPDSCG on land access. It's a lengthy process due to legislative reform, but it is still moving and a priority of ours. Working group 2, working on the AFLUX guidance document is complete. So that will be implemented under a staged implementation. It is happening slowly but surely. Working group 3 has advanced the accreditation process. So very much in motion at the moment, and probably the one with a few updates there. You may have noticed on ARCUS, a Melbourne Water Tab has appeared. That was them trialing out a few mechanisms as to how they will work their accreditation. So nothing to worry about yet. Not even certain that that will be the ultimate way that they do things. But that is, if you have seen that, so yeah, just don't stress about it too soon. But it might be an option as to how they facilitate their accreditation. I had a note there. We are seeking consultants to provide example drawing sets in PDF format for pit and pipe design and wetlands. It's probably actually moved a little bit beyond that at the moment. Melbourne Water have said firstly they're going to focus on some sort of standard drawings, nearly MRWA style for pit and pipe is the first one to sort of bite off there. So there will be some samples going around actually very shortly, which ALDE will look at and also pass around to our members to provide their comments as well. So if you want to have some input into what they'll look like ultimately, speak up for sure. Probably not as much updates. DSS review and Victoria Auditor's General Office. Both of these are still progressing. No real major updates on those at the moment. Another big priority of ALDE at the moment is the EDCM. The EDCM update. Rod Jackson's here tonight, who's spearheading that with us. Also, some changes by Hume City Council, to which ALDE has responded with a letter. No further update on the response to that letter just as yet. Another issue that's popped up with the IDM. The IDM requires an appointment of a supervising engineer to supervise work. But obviously, if a supervising engineer is supervising the work, it is not fair for council to charge a supervision fee on top of that. So council are deciding if they will decide to charge a supervision fee, or others will supervise and charge the developer. I think last time we spoke about our DTP committee up and running now, but also on top of that, we have our Geotech Sub-committee up and running. It's held its second meeting. Got members from Tonkin and Taylor, C&T, Geotech, Reeds, Ground Science, Urban Design and Management, and MNG all in there. We look forward to providing benefits to our members on that and the geotechnical community. MRWA news, works continue on the construction auditor handbook. All our sessions have now been completed. It opened up a lot of conversation among consultants. It's been very pleasing how everyone's worked together on that one. The draft's now completed and it'll be shared for comment with the ALDE members and MRWA shortly. I think we maybe went through this last time, but anyway, just a reminder that July 1 has passed. So there are extra requirements from Southeast Water on construction auditor training. Needs to be completed by 31st of the 12th. Also updated NCCs as per every year. July was Tech Month. So YEILD Group recently held a series of events during the month of July. All went fantastically, I think everyone would agree. Some really insightful talks from various people. If you couldn't catch them, there are links available and you can watch those back online. I've just put a little thing up there. It's on YouTube. But if you look through the eConduit or something, there's links in there as well where you can find those videos. In upcoming news, next week, 2 events next week. We got the ALDE AGM on Wednesday night, open to all general members, and we hope you all take time to join us at the Chandelier in Port Melbourne. So we'll have the general meeting, obviously, and then followed by drinks and some finger food in the function area. The day after that, on Thursday, D&I Subcommittee is running a panel session for RUOK Day. So we've got some panelists that are going to present to us there. Another great event. 3 o'clock, that one starts with a 2:30 sign-in. So I hope to see you all at that one as well. Long term coming up after that, Christmas dinner as always in December. Our next members forum will be here again on November the 12th. Thanks all for your time. Thanks for your attendance. Good to see so many faces here tonight. And thanks to our presenters. Thank you.